Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S. And we are here with the season 3 finale of What's the Word Wednesdays. And that's episode 18. I went out of order, but it's all good. But as we usually do to end off the season and do what we do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put up the logo in the background, as well as I'm going to put the topic for tonight and pin it. But as y'all are coming in, y'all let me know how y'all feeling, how y'all doing, and what's the word. Even if it's a word or just how everything is going. What's the word? Shouts out to the brother Sakurai. I see you in here, brother, man. Good to see you, G. Hope all is well with you, man. What's the word? And yes, for those who are very conscious of what they wear and what they do, and they talking about, I'm not matching right now. That was all done intentionally too. I just wanted to just match this way because, y'all, I'm trying to be comfortable right now. But again, y'all, shouts out to everyone that's here. Shouts out to those who will be watching this later, whether on Instagram or YouTube. If you find your way on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks, because there's going to be more content like this and others to come. So go ahead, give me a subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those wonderful things. And as y'all are doing that, we got music playing in the background. Just a little bit, just a little bit. For today's season finale episode, we're going to be doing, as we usually do, of course, we're going to talk about current events. After we talk about current events, we're going to get into it. It's something that's being spoke about for the majority of this year and years before. I'll say at least the last 3 years. We're going to talk about traditional versus modern. And then lastly, for tonight's topic that we're going to talk about will be, is there a way to combine the old with the new? And that could be with anything. All depends on us. But yes, y'all, as y'all coming in, again, let me know how y'all doing, how y'all feeling, and what's the word. But yeah, Zach, what's good with my G? Tell me what's happening. Crashing like Percy, chopping clans with axes, going reborn, resurrect my ashes. Speaking of that, projects coming out while I'm waiting. This Friday, the 23rd, if I'm correct. Yeah, the 23rd. Go ahead, check that out on Bandcamp. It's going to be on Spotify, streaming everywhere. I got to get better at using my own platform to also promote, so here it is. Oh, this should be a good topic about modern versus traditional. Yeah, man, I want to hear everybody's perspectives on this, so we got to get this going. But let's go ahead and let's jump into the show song so that we can get into these current events so we can move to next topics. Shouts out to Kunan. I see you in here. Akasha Consultant, Chabra. Peace to you, as well as Shinobi. Good to see you in here, my G. Always a pleasure. Again, one day I may make a song to this, or it just might just stay as instrumental. But for those who do know, we can sing along, we can chill back, relax. But one day, you won't have to worry about me doing it like this. So it's like, what's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Once again, y'all, it's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S, and we are here with the season 3 finale of What's the Word Wednesdays. And this is episode 18. Yes, I did it all out of order because I wanted to. But yeah, y'all, again, thank you for everyone that's up in here, man. Much love to y'all, man. I'm just grateful for life, grateful for y'all's presence, and just grateful for nature all around, man, and family. We can continue to just put the list. But again, we're here for this episode. We're going to be getting into current events. We're going to be talking about traditional versus modern. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, is there a way to combine the old and new? And that will be it. We'll see what goes from there, but that's going to be for today's show. So if y'all are with it, again, y'all let me know. How y'all feeling? How y'all doing? And what's the word in the comments? Yes, I just had something in my mouth. It was a pause. But yeah. Said everything great, man. It's morning time here, so just getting ready for work. Hey, do what you gotta do, my man. And speaking of that, bro, you must be like out of the country if you saying this is about time for you to go to work. My man, that's interesting. But all right, as that's going on, let's go ahead and let's get into the first part of this show, which is current events. And as I'm doing these current events, if y'all have any news, topics, or things that you want to share, whether if it's good news or just news to be informed of globally, please put it down in the comments. Because again, I'm not going to be able to catch everything and we're not going to go through everything. But just put it down in the comments. So for the news topics I got for y'all today, a few of them struck me, more of them in the health related field. Of course, we're still going to talk about what's going on with COVID. Then we got more talking about affairs with the U.S. and other countries. And then I'm just going to run down some just highlighted or headline topics from NPR, and that's it. Yeah, or it's the night shift. Possibly. It probably is. I don't know. The brother got to respond back to us and let us know. Gunda, he got to let us know. Right. With that, let's jump in to these first two health topics. First one that I want to talk about, and this comes from Eat This, Not That. And the headline of the article reads, antioxidant supplement linked to deadly heart disease and stroke. New study finds. So for those who love getting their vitamins, the antioxidants, all the other type of supplements, always be mindful and careful of what you are getting and putting your stuff. Currently in the UAE, bruh, I don't even know UAE, my G, and that flag, I'm probably terrible at even knowing. You gotta spell it straight out for me, my G, but much love to you out there, my mans. But with that, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead, 3 paragraphs as we usually do, and then we're out with this article. So, article reads, trust us, we're all aware of the fact that making sure that you're eating a proper diet isn't always easy. That's why it sometimes be beneficial to add few supplements to your regular routine. While supplements may be common, it's important to note that you need to be careful when it comes to what will happen or what you'll be taking. That's what I said. Oh, United Arab. Oh, much love to you out there, my G. As it turns out, some supplements might be doing more harm than good. A new study has found that the beta carotene supplement has been linked to serious and even potential fatal health issues. So the beta carotene, we're going to figure out what it is specifically, and then there it is. It's actually a short article. I'm going to read the whole thing. In the study that was published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, researchers took a look at the data from 884 previous studies that involved 883,627 participants, while analyzing the effects of various supplements, including omega fatty acids, magnesium, zinc, and others. They found that synthetic supplements formulated with the antioxidant beta carotene were connected to a higher risk of both cardiovascular disease, which is CVD, mortality, and all-cause mortality. And that's the article. So y'all ain't even got to go back and read this one in particular. So that's, I mean, I'm not too surprised, even though I'll see on some supplements that says like it's FDA approved, as well as #1 doctor approved. But you always have to look at the back and read the nutritional facts and make sure you know what you're taking. So any of those particular vitamins mixed with beta carotene, the synthetic form of it, says that this is where they're linked or they're closely connected. It says other ingredients in beta carotene supplement. Did they account for that too? It probably is. Again, at this point, a lot of people should know what GMO is, and should know that a lot of our food is synthetic and it's artificial. It's been genetically modified. So I'm not surprised again with this happening with beta carotene and these supplements. But yeah, that's the first one. That is the first one. The second one. It is not going to give me too much on this, but a little bit. So this comes from MSN Health in particular. And this talks about drinking just 2 coffees a day can double your double heart death risk, which is interesting. So it reads, because there's a whole video on it. The video information reads, 2 or more cups of coffee a day may increase the risk of death from cardiovascular disease. You see the connections of the previous one and this one. In people with severe hypertension. The risk of death from cardiovascular disease was not increased in people who drank only 1 coffee a day. In contrast, drinking green tea was not associated with an increased risk of death related to cardiovascular disease. This is despite both coffee and tea containing caffeine. So it's not caffeine in particular. Previous research found that 1 cup of coffee a day may help lower the risk of death after a heart attack and may prevent heart attacks. Our study aimed to determine whether the known protective effects of coffee also applies to individuals who differ in degrees of hypertension, and also examine the effects of green tea in the same population. The study was conducted in Japan and data used for more than 18,600 men and women. Research was publicized in the Journal of the American Heart Association. So another one around health, because again, health is wealth. Self-care for your health care. Make sure you are taking care of yourself, because it's very important. Because again, if you don't give your body the right fuels, or you overfuel it with what it does not need, it will break down much earlier than you think. But if you want to watch the video, which is a real short video, it's 1:10. Again, you go to MSN Health, and the article's title says, drinking just 2 coffees a day can double heart death risk. Y'all telling me. All right. The next one I got for y'all. I'm interested in this. And it's real quick. And y'all can look through this later again as I give y'all the titles and stuff. So this one also comes from MSN Health. There's a lot of health going on today. A lot of health. And the headline reads, bone marrow transplant stops MS in its tracks. If you don't know what MS is, it's multiple sclerosis. So the small caption at the bottom of the video reads, multiple sclerosis impacts almost 1 million Americans. It's one of the leading cause of disability amongst young people in the United States. There are several medications to control the symptoms, but nothing to stop it from progressing. That is until now. So, again, they say a bone marrow transplant stops multiple sclerosis in its tracks. So, again, you want to watch the video, get more on it, it's there. Comes from MSN Health. Headline reads, bone marrow transplant stops MS in its tracks. There it is. All right, y'all. Last stuff I got for y'all is involving the U.S. and Russia. Or I should say U.S. and Russia. More so U.S. and Ukraine. And then quick talk about COVID one more time. Say, yeah, you brother, you missed it again, my man. Yeah, the experience for some supplements can do more harm than good. Very true, very true. You just gotta read what you put in your body. If you don't know what it is, if it's foreign to the body and you haven't done your research on it, don't put it in there. But again, that's all on you. So the first one from this last three that I'm gonna share you comes from Bloomberg, and the article's headline reads, "How Zelensky made his high security train to plane journey to Washington." So he came in, met up with, if I'm correct, U.S. lawmakers. I don't know if that was the Senate, but we'll see. 3 paragraphs and we're out. Article reads, Ukrainian President Volodymyr, if I'm saying it correct, Zelensky traveled by train and plane under high security, landing outside Washington on Wednesday to meet with President Joe Biden and address U.S. lawmakers. On Wednesday, Zelensky arrived by train in the Polish city of Przeleżnicy. I'm saying it all completely wrong. It's all good if I am. Shouts out to brother Sincerely Knows the Truth. I see you in here, my G. What's good? What's the word? On the border with Ukraine, accompanied by U.S. Ambassador to Kyiv, Bridget Brink, the TVN 24 news channel reported on its website. Polish TV footage showed the Ukrainian leader walking down to the platform, flanked by men in military fatigue, before getting into a black Chevy Suburban. Still using that. The railway trip to Poland was a necessity because Russia is contesting Ukraine's airspace, making sometimes lengthy train trips a requirement for visits in and out of Zelensky's country. So, I'm not going to read more because there's still a few more stuff left up on it. But the main reason why he had to do all the high security traveling is because of the fact, train to plane, had to make sure he get himself there so he can meet with President Biden and to address U.S. lawmakers about what? I'm not too sure in particular, but what I'm thinking is more so with helping Ukraine in this war with Russia. That is my guess to this. But if you want to read more about it, check out Bloomberg. Headline from the article read, "How Zelensky made his high security train to plane journey to Washington." And to follow that up, I guess I answered my own question right here. Reason why he came is this next headline, which is from Bloomberg, and it reads, "Biden says giving Kyiv advanced weapons risk U.S. alliances." I don't know why I was just over here butchering that. But let's see. Before I do that, it said the 2 biggest investors of Twitter want Elon Musk to step down as CEO and hire a CEO instead. Interesting. Yeah, everybody up in here. Peace, peace, peace. Again, Biden says giving Kyiv advanced weapons risk U.S. alliances. 3 paragraphs and we're out. Article reads, President Joe Biden defended his reluctance to give Ukraine all of the advanced weaponry it wants to fight off Russia's invasion, saying that the provision of longer range missiles and other sophisticated gear risks straining U.S. alliances in Europe, including NATO. The idea that we would give Ukraine material that is fundamentally different, that is already going there, would have a prospect of breaking up NATO and breaking up the European Union and the rest of the world, Biden says at the White House news conference with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. So that's what he went there to go ask for. Interesting. So a weapons package Biden approved Wednesday as Zelensky visited Washington on his first trip outside of Ukraine since Russia's invasion includes a Patriot missile battery. I'm not going to go through all of this stuff, but if you want to read more on it, now we have the reason as to why he came to do his visit. It's to get more help and support, but it can cause a strain between all the different alliances that the U.S. has. But just to keep y'all on the up and up, that is what's going on. So if you want to read more, this article comes from Bloomberg, and the headline reads, Biden says giving Kyiv advanced weapons risk U.S. alliances. And last but not least, y'all, I'm just going to read the article headline. I'm not going to read more into it. So if you want to go look for it, it's there. So this article, again, also coming from Bloomberg, it reads, China's COVID tsunami could spark a dangerous new variant that affects the world. So following, I think, last week or the previous week, I did speak on another such of an outbreak, or at least a rampant uptick in COVID cases in China. And now they're gearing it towards another variant, which they did. We did speak about another variant that had an interesting name. I forgot. I can't keep up at this point, but it's like a sub variant of, it's a subcategory or sub variant of of Omicron, which Omicron has multiple variants within that strand, but now there's a sub variant within that multiple strand. You see where I'm going with this? So much going on. But it says that since there's a tsunami of COVID-19 cases that is happening in China, they're saying that there's going to be a new one that's going to show up. So we'll see what happens, you know? So if you want to read that, go look it up. Do what you got to do. Shouts out to the brother, Daniel Smokes, in the building. Much love to you, G. Even if it's an accident, peace and love to you regardless. All right. And like I said before, I'm just going to read off some titles from NPR. If you want to look for them, NPR.com, or sorry, NPR.org. So that's NPR.org. So we have researchers find 168 more ancient images at Peru's Nazca lines. Homebound dog found 1,600 miles away, will be home for Christmas. Happy winter solstice. At last, we made it to the shortest day. Winter solstice is always the shortest day of the year. Just to let y'all know. Germany returns looted artifacts to Nigeria to rectify a dark colonial history. The case of two Grace Elliots, a medical bill mystery. Turkey attempts to ban an Erdogan rival with politics is drawing a backlash. Elon Musk, here it goes right here, Kunde. Elon Musk says he will resign as Twitter CEO once he finds a replacement. As he says, Mike Hodges, director of Get Carter and Flash Gordon, passes away at 90. And there's more and more and more and more and more, but I'm going to stop right there. So, again, if y'all had any articles or stuff that y'all want to share, please put it in the comments. Even if it's good news, please put it down in the comments. But thank y'all for coming for this news portion of this. Yes, I'm not leaving. I just want to say thank y'all because most people don't want to be hearing all the news. But thank you for stopping in and listening to the news as we continue on with the other topics to come. So, with that, before we get into the next topic, of course, I got to do it as I usually do. Disclaimer. The disclaimer is, if you would like to join the live and be on talking with me and other folks about these topics, just know that this will be posted and left on Instagram, YouTube, and other socials. So if you're not comfortable with that, it's fine. You can stay in the comments and do what you already do. But if you want to come on and talk and speak, just know that there is a waiver of your rights, that this is going to go everywhere. If you're not ready for it, then you know. You've been warned. But all right. With that, y'all, because I also want to look it up, let's get into the next topic for tonight, for this season's finale. And we're going to talk about traditional versus modern. And as I prefaced earlier in the beginning of the intro, with the intro, what's the word and all of that, most of it has been talked about. I say the past 3 years, it's taken such a high rise in conversations, and it's mostly been in terms of relationships. But traditional versus modern can be flipped and seen not only in relationships, but the way that we go about with religion, all aspects of culture. So, as we're doing that, everyone out there, in your minds, when you think of traditional versus modern, what comes to mind? Or individually, when you hear traditional, what comes to mind? And when you hear modern, what comes to mind? Put it down in the comments. A.D.V., what do you think outcoats? What do you think's outcoats? I'm going to say that you maybe mistyped it. There it is. Exactly. I had a feeling that's what you were talking about. But as that's going on, I'm about to put up these definitions just because. And we'll get into them. And entertain them with them flashing lights. It said, what do you think about cults? For the most part, many cults, from my perspective, it just gets radical. That's it. There's a reason why people join cults in particular. Most of it is off of a belief that they all share, a common goal. But to a sense, that is a cult, is that it allows for no room for outsiders to give perspectives and suggestions. All that's right is right in the cult. All that's said outside is wrong. There's not much, I should say there's much logic, but there is more of idolization. That's how I see it. But in terms of that, let's go back to modern. And I'm going to give y'all definitions for both modern and traditional. And we're going to keep this moving. So, again, I'll be going to Webster's Dictionary. And I already see something popping up in here. I'm with it. Traditional has negative connotations in the West because there is a bias towards modern. The bias isn't always a good thing. I feel that. That's why we going through them. That's why we figuring them out. So, traditional, from Webster's Dictionary, says it's an adjective. And the adjective, it states, there's 3 different definitions. First one, of or relating to tradition. Consist of or deriving from a tradition. So a traditional celebration. Second one, handed down from age to age. Traditional history, traditional songs, and stories. And the third one, saying following or conforming to tradition, adhering to past practices or established conventions. Yeah, conventions. So traditional values, traditional beliefs, traditional morality, employing traditional methods of cooking. These are just examples. So, more to do with the past, history, and tradition. Now for modern, and as y'all are doing that, I see right here, I think we had mobile phones in the ancient Kemet. Possibly that could have been a thing. I don't personally know. Just have to look it up and figure that out there. All right. As I'm about to read some more, this is what I got for modern, and we will continue. So modern, there's two different ones. One is an adjective as well. The other one's a noun. I'm going to give you all the definition. The first one, of or relating to or characteristic of the present or the immediate past. Y'all hear that? Of or relating to or characteristic of the present or the immediate past. Second one, of or relating to or characteristic of a period extending from a relevant remote past to the present time. So modern history. The modern family, American family. Third one, when it's capitalized, it says of or relating to or having the characteristics of the present or most recent period of development of a language. Makes sense. Of or relating to modernism. And then there's modernists, like modern art. Another one, modern, a person of modern times or views. An adherent of modernism. And then lastly, a style of printing text distinguished by regularity of shape, precise curves, straight line shapes, and heavy downstrokes. So modern, that's a type of, again, art style. But yeah, so those are the definitions. Now, the framing for it. Where are we going with this? What are we going to be talking about when speaking about tradition or traditional versus modern? Before I do that, when I think of modern, I think about how our traditional Asian cultural foods have been demonized as stinky, but they turn around and modernize it to appropriate and profit from it. That's interesting. I mean, I haven't heard much of the stinky portion from my side, but I can see how, again, we take this melting pot that we have and we start intermixing and creating different formulas and stuff and think we are the first to do that. I clashed this cuisine with that cuisine. Now it's a whole new realm of cuisines, when that's not the case. Not giving the credit to you mixed with Mediterranean with Thai, and then taking credit for it. It's not the case. So, how I want to speak about traditional versus modern, I'm going to think about it in the aspects not only of relationship, but also culture, technology, and then we can look at it when it comes to literature and language. Especially language. Especially language. So, in terms of traditional, in a sense, especially here in the West, I can't speak of other sections and parts of the world because I haven't been there, and I don't have much of the perspective from there. When I think of traditional in the sense of relationships, it is the typical man is the breadwinner of the household, woman is the nurturer, takes care of the household, takes care of children, while the man goes to work. That's what the woman is doing. That is in the sense of the early 1900s up to about the 60s, 70s. And the issues and the issues around that is that, again, it puts people in roles. I should say again, puts people in roles and aspects of living that may be seen as demeaning. And why do I have to play this particular role and work in this particular spot when we're a unit? We work together. In relationships wise, yes, we think in heterosexual men and women in the traditional sense. That's the whole idea that they have. Again, the American dream, the white picket fence, 2 kids, all of that particular imagery that a lot of us in the States have seen. But just in the sense too of the difference between the patriarchy and the matriarchy and who basically runs the household, that's what it's been put in as an image. Like I said, between it's like way back when, but we're going from the early 1900s all the way to about the 60s, 70s. And it's problematic to a sense because of all the other rules and laws that were put into place, whether it was voting, whether it came to still slaves, all of this stuff running all into there. So intermixing with what traditional looks like, it's, again, man being the head of the household, woman being able to take care of kids and run a household. People played their parts. Now, the good thing with that is that people knew what they were doing. And what I mean by knew what they're doing, they knew their part that they was playing. Fast forward to the sense of modern, everyone is equal in the sense of you can also play this part and I'll play this part. And the whole idea of 50-50, of I'll do 50% of this, you'll do 50% of that, and we can swap and do different jobs interchangeably. More as a partnership, which I still like to say a unit versus a partnership, because partnerships, again, can break off and leave. A unit, y'all there, y'all cohesive and connected together, knowing what your main purpose is. But again, before I dilute and get away from the point, with the setup of modern, anybody can play the background. Anybody can switch in between the roles, and not everybody is set to one particular role. And that's where I say there's a nuance for a lot of things to happen, as well as different roles to be switched and experienced. But if you do not speak with your partner or speak with your unit, the person that you're with, whoever it may end up being, and you are not on the same page about who's doing what, those roles will become assumed. And if you're not playing the role that the other person thinks that you're supposed to be playing, then nobody knows who's supposed to be doing what or when and where, how and why in a relationship. So it's like having a formula, but expecting the formula to work if you haven't done the formula yourself, because you've seen that the formula can be used either way, but didn't check to see if the person understands the formula. So a lot of guesswork. But as I'm doing that and I continue, let's go back to it. Modernized, sanitized, make it scientific. All excuses for appropriating kombucha, congee, kimchi, chickadee, I'm saying all these wrongs, and even doza. They call doza lentil wraps and sell it with that name, for example. Wow. In the West, traditional is associated with backwards, primitive, and even anti-progress, and sometimes even bigoted. This ignores or twists real history and historical facts. Yes. For example, zero was invented by ancient Hindus and independently by Mayas. The first record of a prosthetic leg was in the Rig Veda thousands of years ago. I hear that. I do. I hear that. I take that and I listen. That's why it's important of us having conversations like this, so that light like this can be shed on the subject, so folks can know and can go and do that research and look for it themselves and know that, again, all these concepts and ideas did not all originate from the West. They did not originate from the system that we are currently in, the colonial system that we're part of. A lot of this stuff stems back to other Aboriginal people, Aboriginal civilizations, and they had a more keen and sustainable idea and concept of this stuff. But what do we do? What does the West, what does those who have come and colonized do? They flip all of that on their heads. They flip it all on their heads, all those concepts, and they change it into their own amalgamation, their own creation, but miss out on the vital parts that creates all of these different symptoms that we're now seeing. That's why you're seeing, and I'm stuck in relationships right now. We're still going to go on to the other aspects. Now you're seeing the effects of not properly setting up and addressing key functions in a civilization, creating whatever you want, whenever, however you want it. It has to be ran this way. You're starting to see those effects when it comes down to breakdown of families, breakdown of society, breakdown in foods, all around, especially here in the West. You know, all of that's happening. And you wonder why we have negative views on both traditional, modern, and all this stuff. Because in a sense, for me, I would want to work with somebody, and when I mean somebody, a woman, together to build a future. I would love to be the one making, of course, most of the money so that it can be sufficed and used. Each of us work on our strengths. But the way that we live in this system and we play again and along this system, it makes it hard to say that, oh, I would love to have these particular traditional values, but then bring them into the modern aspect and learn that you can't play a traditional game in the modern time, because the modern time has changed the whole game. So what you think would work back then doesn't work now. And don't be afraid to try it, is what the game is saying. But you see that it doesn't work. And when I mean it doesn't work, you see there's a lot of people in confusion. You're seeing a larger population of folks being more single than ever. Not only here, but you got China, Japan, the birth rates, all this stuff going on. And that's, again, based off of the fact that we're talking about, this dude said temple of acronyms. That's pretty fire. How we see traditional and modern here in the U.S. and how it has such an impact on how it's seen outside. But that's just in terms of relationships. That's in terms of relationships, which we know that's one of the most important things in life, is the connections and relationships that you make with other people. And if we can't connect with each other, we can't build and create and keep this species, this race that we are, species, whatever you want to call it, going, how is it going to push any further into the future? How are we going to be able to build great morals and values for the future when it comes in the aspect of traditional and modern with relationships, if we cannot connect? So yes, a lot of the stuff that you're hearing and seeing now, modern Modern wise now is a lot of buzz, a lot of talk. Same thing about traditional. There's a lot of terrible things as with that. But there's a way, and when we get to the last topic for tonight, of how you compare and mix all of that together. Very simple formulas. Very simple. But that's traditional versus modern in the sense of relationships. Again, more of y'all welcome to come in and share your thoughts. Just know that, yes, it's going on Instagram and YouTube, but y'all more than welcome to come in and share that. Now, in terms of traditional versus modern, and I'm going to jump straight in now to language, because I really more so like talking about this, because I've seen like not even a full 360, not even a full 180, but just what I've been learning about when it comes to language is interesting how a lot of it continues to transform over time, and very small elements of it now is very similar to how a lot of early languages were created. So when it comes to traditional language, and when I mean traditional language, yes, we're talking about languages that were spoken in the past, because again, the definition is talking about a lot of stuff that's done in the past. Mostly when you think of traditional, a lot of values, a lot of things that have happened more so in the past. Yes, we're talking about our Latins, we talking about our Greeks, we talking about, French, and a lot of this stuff, and how, especially English very more so. I still say English to me is more of a modern language. It's definitely not a traditional. I know it's weird to say, like, okay, you're going to call it traditional, things of that sorts, but just watch where I'm going to go with it. So, in the sense of the traditional languages, it was interwoven and intertwined, of course, with the culture of where it was. That's why we talk about the traditional things, too, with the American language. There is a such thing there, too, with the American language of English also having its traditional roots. But this is where I mean in the sense of, I'll say, the years, like past years and when it came in. So traditional in a sense with language, I'm thinking of how it connects with the culture of people, while at the same time how its roots describe how people not only interacted, but how they spoke with each other in terms of connection. Again, a sense of connection. And when I see it, a lot of it was definitely very wordy, because there is so much that was there that was still being put and implemented together. And as time pushed forward, a lot of the language got a little bit more tightened and more refined, because of the fact that you started to learn that you didn't need every single piece and part for a word. The English language, we put so much extra words that we don't need, especially as a writer and an artist, when it comes to just extra syllables or just extra filler words. We don't even need it. In other languages, there's not many filler words. There are filler words for sure, but there's not as many as we can say in the English language. And where I've seen that uptick change, especially within now the modern language, there's a lot of abbreviations, shorts, acronyms of words, as well as we have emoticons with emojis to describe what you're saying and how you're feeling in modern terms. And a lot of that, not only shortcut languages, there's a lot of interpretation to be left on the table when we think of it in a modern sense. In a traditional sense, you would get the gist and already understand where the person is going, how they were feeling, the way that you would speak it, the tone, the speed, all of that would be understood. Now, when it comes to, again, modern, when it comes to the languages and how they're spoken over text and in person at times, a lot of it could be misconstrued and misunderstood. Because of the fact that not only that we're advancing, but still to this day, y'all, words are getting added into the dictionary. They're getting added to these places. I don't know in kanji specifically. I think it's Japanese, if I'm correct, in those particular areas. I don't even know if there are more symbols and more characters being added to that list, where in the English language, there are words being added almost every other day because of how society is moving. Selfie was a word that was put into the dictionary like 6 years ago. I forgot what the other word that was put this year, or just literally last year, into the dictionary, because again, as ages continue to come on, shouts out Most Def in the building, aka Definite Mass. I said Most Def because he's most definitely in here, but that's Definite Mass. Good to see you, my G. Much love to you. But we get to see how, as society progresses and moves, especially in the terms of language, there is a lot of and mistranslated meanings on stuff. That's why we talking about, when we talk about modern and tradition, there's no one set universal definition, understanding of a word, because depending on the circumstances which thereof, shouts out to the brother Lyrics, it can change at any moment. My what's up could just be how you doing. What's up could be like what you need, or what's up, like you want to do something. Yes, a lot of that comes along with slang, and that's the changing of language. Again, that's added, and I'm speaking only in terms of course, English, because that's what I can say of. I don't speak any other languages like that. But the cool thing that I've seen about not only the shortening of language, but the use of pictures, or use of the emoticons, it starts to become, for me, very reminiscent of hieroglyphs, very reminiscent of ideographs, which are basically, again, pictures symbolizing a meaning to what a person is trying to say. And it's almost as if we're taking a full circles back to where, especially we're talking about Egyptian, how English and a lot of the emoticons and symbols that we are using now range back from that. Because a lot of language wasn't necessarily written down to start off with alphabets just yet, per se. A lot of it was very ideographic. It had a lot of meaning through symbolism with words and not words, but with pictures, which soon turned into words because of the fact they symbolize stuff. And a great example that I can say again is going back with Japanese, with kanji. Each one of those symbols in kanji tells a story. I know there's a one in the kanji. There's again, I don't know all of them, but I know there's a symbol of, like, if you want to say man, the way that the kanji is written in Japanese, it tells the story of a man doing something like this, but it's just in the symbols. But my point to that is going that even with having the traditional view of stuff, that's why in the modern time we have words that become archaic, because of the fact that as times move, a lot of people are not using the same verbiage. They're not using the same use of the word because of the fact that it doesn't fit. And sometimes that's fine. It doesn't have to necessarily fit, because of the fact that when you're speaking with someone, if I'm speaking like Shakespeare back way when in times now, people would think I'm weird. Like, art thoueth comingeth to the playeth, like what? Like, what are you talking about? You mean, am I going to the play? It again confuses, which is very funny to say that, having the old traditional confusing you now in the new, and how that merges and clashes, and how that doesn't fit. And it's because of the fact that, like people say, you got to get with the times. So we can have knowledge of all that stuff and use what we have now to help improve the future, but also look back and see how a lot of it still is very prevalent in what we're using. Now, I know I went all over the place with like traditional and modern when it comes to language, but just know that the true takeaways from this is that a lot of the traditional languages, as they're coming down, were slowly being refined to a point now in modern times, we use words that fit where we are now, and words that don't fit, they sit in the background, but still can have a deeper meaning. And a lot of it is starting to loop back to the point where we're getting back to more of a picturesque type of language, where we're just only explaining with visuals and symbolization, or symbolization through all of that. Especially, I mean, that's like I said in English with the emoticons. That's where I wanted to take that. But let's see. Let's go back. I want to see all these comments y'all was going in here doing it. Yeah, catch you up. Hopefully you in here, my G. Hope you got caught up a little bit, Prooch, yes. But conversely, American conservatives do demand going back to traditional values as a euphemism and excuse for being bigoted. And that's where you have to be able to draw the line and the difference between knowing that's the person's intention versus someone else's intention is because of the fact that their traditions and their family is what they want to continue to keep passing down. Because to them, it can be seen as sacred. It is something that differentiates them amongst everybody else. Because everybody has their own type of tradition. And it makes it special in a sense. Yeah, because we all want to be special. But knowing, like, in our family, this is what we do. In that terms of culture. But he says because America was originally set up for the nuclear family, aka a traditional. Yes. More words from the acronyms. So extra. Master P just got put in the encyclopedia. Wait, what? Nah, you playing, right? Nah, you playing on that one. You gotta be playing on that one. Webster's, yes. Webster's dictionary has officially added they, them as a singular pronoun for non-binary people, for example. Yes, as well as Cambridge. I think the Cambridge dictionary changed the meaning of man and woman as well. But there's a lot of backlash on that. If I'm correct. Don't quote me on that. You can look that up. Said I told you they had cell phones in ancient Kemet. They probably did. Again, I'm not talking about cell phones. I'm just talking about language. And I'm talking about the hieroglyphics. The hieroglyphs that are like ideographs to me. Which is just pictures with symbolism. Bling bling is in the dictations. Look it up. Oh, dictionary? Oh, wow. I'm not surprised. Yeah, that's what I have been thinking too regarding emojis, hieroglyphics, and ideograms. Yes. I would still want to go to the play. All I want to know is who thou'th smoketh the can. Hilarious. I'm loving this. What do you think of tradition versus traditional? More in sense of that, or I should say in terms of that, I would say I'm more for tradition than traditional because of the fact that traditional values or traditional, whatever it is, it will change over time. Traditions, like sacred traditions, when I'm thinking about oral traditions and things that are passed down, a lot of that is unchanging. It's been set in stone. You could morph and do small changes, but ultimately, once the tradition is a tradition, it's a tradition. I know that make no sense, but yeah, once it's already been set there, then it's set. There's little room for it to change because it works. I think that's really more so when I think of tradition is that it's to a point where what you've done for generations and generations on still works. Tradition, though, the aspect of the past and things that were there in the past coming to the now, and you're seeing that it doesn't have a place in the now, you have to begin to question whether or not you're able to use it or just scrap it because of where you are. For me, traditions continue to go on because your next generations and generations to come keep it going. He said, I was playing on Master P, but I wasn't playing about Bling Bling. Okay. I was about to say, I was like, yo, hold on. I'm like, that can't be. You put in the dictionary, nah. That'll be in a rapper's dictionary for sure. But a regular dictionary, I'm not too sure about that. Brian, let me see. Y'all just saw my thumb in the camera. And I guess right now, starting to try to feel somewhat congested, knowing that I'm about to do freestyles tomorrow. So don't mind my congestion. We're going to still keep this moving anyways. This says, yeah, saying, I am more for tradition than traditional. Yeah. But that's why it's important, again, for us to talk about these differences and be able to notice the differences. Because when we're able to do that, it brings more clarity around what we're speaking on and what we're trying to get to and get towards. Because a lot of the time, the whole talk right here about traditional versus modern is trying to figure out what have we done in the past that has some relevance today that we can still use, while seeing how today's issues and the solutions we have for today's issues with today's problems can work now and pair it along with the traditional stuff that's happened in the past. But we're not getting to that point because we're still stuck on which side you ride with. And on my side that I ride with, it's much more than your side, and vice versa. It has more depth. It has more meaning. It stood the test of time because it was here longer. Knowing that once we get the next 30, 40 years, that's going to be the same flip that is going to be talked about with us too. Is I'm more into traditional stuff, which would be the modern stuff that we have today. And then that modern of those 30, 40 something years to come is going to look completely different. And it's going to be this same talk. I don't know what that's going to look like, but we're going to see when it comes. Now, when it comes to traditional versus modern, in that aspect of, as I know I said, we talked about relationships, we talked about language. Culture it was closely mixed with that, but I'll touch briefly on culture. And when I think of culture in a sense of traditional or modern, I think of not only the laws, but I think of the values, the principles, the ethics, and morals during those times. So traditional values of working hard versus modern times of work smarter, not harder, is the converse of each other. The reason why I use that example is because traditionally, at least in the U.S., a lot of folks would just work for most of their life, provide for their families, and the cycle will continue just like that. Go to school, you get you a job, that you continue to work that job, build up a family, build up on the next generations, and the cycle continue. And in that cycle, the aspect of working hard or hard work, being able to show and improve with your effort, was pushed a lot there. But in terms of today, again, it's more spoken in terms of, I don't necessarily need to go and do this traditional route of going to school, getting my degree, working for a company, to then buy a house, to then have a family, and let that cycle continue to tell next generations the same thing. I'm going to build generational wealth in a different way. And even back then, in this day that we have now, stocks was a thing. Now, we have everybody jumping on different types of means of not only being entrepreneurs, but finding ways. You don't even have to work a job, go physically somewhere. You can work at home, doing many different jobs with different skills, and still being able to have some type of income to come in and to suffice for your living, versus going to your 9 to 5, working day in and day out, and continuing that cycle. People are breaking out of the idea of the 9 to 5 now in the modern time. So when I'm thinking of that particular case of the changes between the traditional ways of thinking of culture and the values of hard work to now of working smarter and not harder, yes, it's still in the aspect you're going to work hard, but you work as hard as you want because of the fact that you've learned from past generations that this was the cycle. This was the way, how things were set up. Let's go about this in a different way, because now I know I don't have to stay with a particular person or a particular job or organization. I can have multiple different jobs in different places and wheres, and be able to finance what I want to do. That's why, in that same token, I can bet you, and all y'all probably will feel the same way, I can bet you, if you would look at someone's resume now to resumes way back when, there will be 3 to 4, and it might even be more, times of type of jobs and experience that a person has now than there was back way when. And part of that is because of the fact that most of the time people worked one job until they rolled over, until they ended up not being on this earth anymore. A lot of people switching careers around in that time wasn't as common as it is now. And part of that too is because there's more job opportunities. There's more type of careers. There's so much more landscapes of opportunities in different places to go. So that's why the fact of working harder and working smarter are in the separate days and times is because of that fact. Now, another aspect of traditional versus modern when it comes to culture, again, we think of, I said values, I think of morals. And then this could be a little touchy, but again, it is what it is, and it is what you make of it. So when I think of traditional in the terms of morals, I think of a lot of it just comes down to the difference between right and wrong from the point of closed-minded to open-minded, and how, and I'm going off of just a reference from where I am today and how I was in the past. There are a lot of morals in the past that people knew that this was their boundary line. that I'm not crossing this line. I'm not doing this particular job. I'm not going to this particular place. I'm not taking this particular thing just so that I can continue to live, or that I can make somebody comfortable, or I can be seen as the same as everybody else, to now. And this is where I'm going to bring a little bit more, be a little bit more specific. So now for me, a lot of morals nowadays have been lost. Not only modesty is one of them, but morals in the sense of knowing you should not be influencing kids and students at a very young age about very adult topics until it's time, as well as being able to tell people what to do when it comes to showing their children how to be functioning adults in this world. And part of that, of why I feel a lot of those morals have been lost in today's age, is because of the fact that the foundation of a family and community has changed so much that it's hard for people to be accountable for not only what they're saying, but what they're doing, and be able to show it. I know there's a saying is, it says, do as I say, not as I do. And if I said it wrong, I said it wrong. Where we'll tell people what you should be doing. Do as I say and not as I do. So we'll tell people what to do, but we go about and go do the same thing that we just told you not to do. Yes, you can say that's being a Pharisee. You can say that's being contradictory. But a part of that is because the functions of now have changed the game so much that even if you want to be moral in the sense of I stand on this and you can't make me go past my boundary, it's gotten to a point where for some people, they have to play that game. Back then, you didn't play the game as much because the way of life and living back then wasn't as drastic and as difficult as it is now. It was difficult back then for its own reasons. But in the sense of today, because also the economy, then the decline of the dollar and money, the situation of living, especially I'm speaking only in the U.S. and a lot of wealthy countries, the status quo, the cost of living has risen so high that the expectations just to get by is so harsh that your morals, your ethics get challenged. And if you stand on your morals and your ethics at times, it might be the end for you. The worst will transpire. Here we go, listening to the music. And I'm not trying to make it look grim. I'm just giving that perspective of why, at least in the modern time, when it comes to cultural morals, it's very loose because of the fact that it's making up for those changes of being able to just survive. A lot of us are in survival mode. Back then, you were in survival mode still, but in a sense of you have comfortability. Now, yes, we have comfortability, but we have it in a sense of complacency as well as urgency, because we are also overstimulated because of these things right here. We are overly critical of everybody that's around us. We are so open that we take in all sorts of information from everybody, all opinions, because we want to fit in to a point that is detrimental to our families, detrimental to our own growth and the environment and community that's around us. So a lot of those morals fall short on the wayside because of the fact that we don't keep them there in line, and we don't have most of our leaders that are supposed to be in there. And I'm speaking to the black community in particular, but I'm seeing in a lot of communities, a lot of people are stepping down to be leaders because of the fact that the responsibility, the accountability, and the morals are not there. Traditionally, there are certain morals back then that were very questionable. Like, why are you doing stuff like this? Why are you not letting people be able to vote and do these things? Why are you treating people less than a human? Yeah, a lot of that stuff was very questionable, for sure. Like, no, that shouldn't even have been a thing. You can say that it was very, very problematic. But it's to a point here in the modern time as well that that's the trade-off between the two. Is you have those type of morals that were immoral to now we have morals here, but we don't need them because of the fact that ain't nobody gonna big up me if I decide I just didn't want to do this and know that it will be for the benefit of me and my family. And I just, instead of just go along with the crowd. If everybody's out here messing with everybody, you should go out and mess with everybody. Or everybody's out here saying things that are radical and you should be a part of that radical crowd. You go about doing the same things. So am I saying not to just, care? No, I'm just saying be informed and be aware of what you stand up for and what you hold true to yourself, whether if it's traditional or if it's modern or you've morphed it and made it your own. That's what I'm saying. So in the sense of cultural morals, a lot of it is put on the wayside now for me, from my perspective, but that could have been the same thing back way when, because generations will say some of the similar things like my cartoons was better than your cartoons back way when we had these stuff that you didn't have. That is always going to be that conversation brought up when it comes to the generations. But just find what works for you, stick with it, and really set your boundary and know that if anybody ever crossed that boundary, this is what you need to do. And follow up with it. Follow up. But let me see, it says, they should learn about consent and the real words for body anatomy so that they can precisely report abuse, but they should not learn about at least not until appropriate age. Again, and it puts also, now I'm gonna go into the sense of like education. It puts teachers, staff, administration, and school districts in a very hard predicament when you change the curriculum for students where it talks about very adult conversations in lieu of learning English, in lieu of learning math, social studies, science, history, all of that. And then we lose out on the point of what is school really doing to educate? And I'm saying in a modern sense. Traditionally, we thought about school and education. Back way when, school was created, Horace Mann, the idea at least of Western civilization of school, Horace Mann. It was more to, again, because I spoke about it, teach people how to be workers. They went and got people from mills, from factories, and had them to do these trainings. Basically, school. That's why a lot of these trade schools, those are the original makings of what school was supposed to do. It's just train you how to be a good worker. That's it. That's why we had that cycle of you live, you go to school. After you get out of school, you work a job. You work that job, create a family, buy in this, you're in all this debt, and you continue to work till you're gone. And that was part of the cycle. That is a part of the cycle. But now, in terms of education, it starts to beg the question of, is it still hitting its purpose of preparing you to be a worker? Is it preparing you to be a critical thinker? To be able to solve problems in today's world? Is it helping you be an informed citizen of issues and problems plaguing this world? Or is it also a piece of indoctrinating students on different values of today's world, morals, ethics, and principles that would either help or harm them when it comes to developing into a citizen of this world? So, in terms of traditional education versus modern education, because we're speaking a little bit on it, is that there is a clear pathway. Traditional knowing you're just working. You're going to be trained to work a job. That's what schooling was for. To now, yes, you're still being trained in a sense to go and find a job and work the best job wherever you can. But at the same time, we're trying to figure out, are you able to still be critically thinking? Will you be able to understand when we change up things in the curriculum? Are you still following along with us? Are you paying attention to what we are saying and how you should think? As well as what we're telling you is the way that you should be moving in this world, and no one else can tell you otherwise. So, think about it. They say, yeah, those are questionable. They actually believe they had divine right to be cruel. They did it by dehumanizing those they oppress. Yes. And that's the aspect we was talking about earlier with not relationships, but the values when it comes to traditional and modern. As well as we could talk about traditional versus modern when it comes to TV, television. Like, I really look at a lot of the stuff that I start to learn about now in terms of those 9 areas of human activity. And I know I say it differently a lot, because there's a whole thing on it by Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. I think about it in those terms because it has a lot of bearings to stuff. There's ones that has religion, sex, war, education, politics, economics. There's more of those in those different areas, but in traditional and modern, it can go about all of that. Now, the last one, when it comes to traditional and modern, I think of course, history. We've already been speaking about it. Culture, history, language, relationships. You know, traditional history versus modern history. All I can say for both of them is a lot of it has been taken out of history and hidden. And you have to find it. Whether if it is traditionally stuff that has happened back in the 18s, 17s, all the way up to what we have modern now. A lot of it, there's a lot of plot holes in there. And much love and respect to to Dick Gregory, and he talked about this too in one of his books, Reading Between the Lies of History. Like, I know I'm just defining if I'm correct, because I remember it off the top of my head. I'm over here trying to look because I had the book. But basically, when you try to make those connections between traditional history, whether going all the way back Middle Ages till you have your pre-modern and then neo-modern, which I'm thinking of now more so this is neo-modern. And then when we get past, again, like I said, another 50, 60 years after this, it's going to be a whole nother bracket of how you would explain this era of history. We miss out on a lot of links, and a lot of it is done purposefully because of the fact that the more that you have the pieces to the puzzle of your history, of human history, world history, your own cultural history, you start to ask more questions to why, how things were seen back then don't line up with where we are now. And that's where traditionally a lot of the stuff that you've had that got passed down lose its power or lose its meaning, because it's like playing a game, a telephone. Small pieces of information, words, and meanings have become archaic, have become unused, have become misunderstood to a point where it's hard to get the full picture and message. So you're probably asking, okay, what are you getting at when you're talking about traditional versus modern when it comes to history? Mainly is what proceeds before will tell what will happen next. We spoke on it before of how when we say history repeats itself, if we don't take a look at what's happened in the past and be able to apply it to where it is now, there's some things that we can notice. There's trends that will follow along the lines. Like, again, I'll talk about with the whole Spanish flu between the 1918 to like the 20s. And then we having this uprising again of COVID. The whole idea of history repeating itself because of the fact that those missing pieces in history that we have hidden, because when you have somebody who comes in and conquers a nation or conquers a civilization, they rewrite it in the terms of themselves. So they'll take pieces from those pieces of history, rewrite it into their modern history, but then it doesn't make any sense because on that way there, they slowly start to erase information. And we shouldn't be baffled, or we shouldn't be surprised at that happening. Why do you think we have so many books? Why do you think we have information, laws, all pointing towards all this information and stuff that change, and then wonder why the populace doesn't know more about this stuff? And it's because, again, it's a part of the miseducation of folks. The more that you do not know, the more that you will not go against. But the more that you know, and the more that you continue to search and find, the more you will come to find that a lot of this stuff has been hidden. And once you start to dig it up, you'll start to continue to figure out why this was never taught. And you become an issue for those who do not want you to know. But he says, yes, people should study real history instead of twisted history. I like that. Twisted history. Partial history. That's why they decoloniality or decolonizing is so important. Yep. Hence, white Jesus, for example. Oh my goodness, man. A lot of that stuff. A lot of it. But yeah. And a lot of this too, you take a lot of things with a grain of salt. You verify these findings and just don't take it because somebody who thinks that they're a historian. I know I'm not. I'm just another regular person, regular dude sharing information that I know. That you go and check this stuff for yourself before you're not going to be able to check for any of this stuff anymore. Because a lot of this stuff is slowly being etched out of history. With every civilization that's happened. Why do you, for me, when I think about this, I think of the book Stolen Legacy by, why I can't come to my mind right now. Because I let somebody borrow the book. But the whole idea of Egyptian gods and a lot of the Egyptian gods being transformed into Greek gods, and those Greek gods also having forms in Rome. And a lot of that is all from back way previous civilizations. Because you take what you want from the previous ones and then you write it in your own. So do your due diligence. Study real history, not twisted history. I'm with that. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there before I continue to keep going on and just going in a loop with this traditional versus modern. But my final piece on that, so that we can get to the last topic for tonight, is the idea of traditional and modern should not limit you to what is right or wrong. It should make you informed on what has happened before that can be brought to what's happening now and used together to create something that works, that is functional, not dysfunctional like a lot of stuff are, not halfway, not partially, not a piece of, but it is fully functional, which goes into the next topic and the last topic for tonight for the finale show, which the last topic for tonight is there a way to combine the old and new? Is there a way to take from what we had previously to what we have now to create something new that is functional? Is there a possibility? Y'all put that down in there for me. Answer the question for me. Is there a way to combine the old and new? It says Jesus was Middle Eastern and spoke Aramaic, so he was brown or possibly even black. Again, all a setup. All a setup. And what I mean by setup, you also can look, and I like, if y'all see behind me, I got a map, got another map, and then y'all can't see right here, but also got another map right here. And if you know a bit about geography in the world, you understand that we had the prime meridian and we had the equator. Anything closer to the equator is hot. Everything further away from the equator is not as hot. So, piecing together that information with history and what was written and what is said in various places in the world will make sense when you're looking for get answers to these questions and stuff. So with Jesus being Middle Eastern, I won't go and drag it out. Just look at the freaking equator. There ain't nobody close around those particular places, like Africa, Egypt, being fully pale. Over a time, the sun gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you. But that's where you also start to pair a lot of this stuff together, because everything is interconnected. From culture, traditions, relationships, world geography. That's why a lot of subjects we forget, and a lot of teachers in schools, even though you specialize in one subject, it's important to know that all the subjects at a school, a university, universal, a union, they all come together to inform you supposedly properly inform you about the world. So math is not just independently on its own. It's also interdependent on language. Because you can understand math, but not know a language, but know that math is also a language in itself. If you don't know how to do math, you're not going to be able to talk with other people, and vice versa. If you know how to talk with other people, but you can't add and know how to bring up with money or math, it makes it even harder and harder for you to even suffice, or make it through. That goes with social studies, goes with history, goes with biology, all of that stuff. They all connect and they stack on top of each other. They're just not by itself. Think of it in that way. Everything holistic. It's not separated. It's not separate. It's all together. But yeah, what people don't know is that the ideas and the information is kept away for reasons. They kept themselves away simply because it is not their normal cup of tea or cup of coffee. I like that. Yeah. Because even that sense of normal, we speak about it, me and Kunden and a lot of regulars, we speak about the whole idea, even the concept of normal, and how that in itself is also a societal phenomenon. Like it was socially constructed. Because we think about the norms. Because norms always change. It can be a norm that everybody puts peanut butter on the right side of their toast and jelly on the other side. And if you meet somebody who does it the other way, will be seen as abnormal. So for me, norms will change, but I get where you're going though. I get you. Thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Yep. For example, Amish people don't like modern technology. Yes. I think that's a bit too extreme. It's all about balance. Yeah. This is another saying, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it continues to work and it's able to still bring about results, why worry about fixing it? That type of thinking and that saying in itself is a solution, but at the same time can be problematic. It's a solution because if I can still effectively communicate, get things across to you, and perform the way that I need to, and it's not hindering my growth or anybody else around me, continue to use it. But it becomes problematic when it does the opposite. And you decide that I'm going to still stick with that, knowing that it's more of a detriment, more of it that is harming than helping. Updates are not bad. You can still have your base. of your whole fundamental belief, your whole fundamental moral, your whole fundamental way of working, your philosophy. It's cool to update. It's okay. You don't have to update the whole thing, but you can take pieces and parts and be like, okay, I see where this is lacking. Let me get more information here. Okay, I can see how it never has to really be changed much. I like where this is. But that's where having honestly, I say at this point now is more of a privilege, but it needs to be a requirement for us to take time for ourselves, sit back and do some introspection to figure this stuff out. Because if we continue to just diddle daddle, and just continue to let life move and progress on, and we don't evaluate what we're doing, then how do we know if we've truly made progress? How do we know if what we have done that's new now has had an impact on the old? Or what we're still doing that was back way when, and it's here and the now working, is actually helpful? How? We got to sit back and take time to evaluate this stuff. We have so much stuff changing daily. Scientific breakthroughs, technology like we've spoken on with the Amish, and literally just the way that we communicate with each other. If it does not bring about growth, and it's not effective, it's not bettering something, and we don't look at it and evaluate it, then why are we doing that in the first place? Why are we even worrying about what happened in the past in the first place? Why do we need to worry about what's to come if we don't take time to evaluate, sit there and really let it be? Y'all let me know. It's all about balance. Again, I like it. Every time, everything makes sense when there is concept, context, clues, symbols, numbers, history, etc. It's amazing how much is all connected. It is amazing, but that's what it was meant to do. And partly because of the fact that I'm just looking at it now. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a role that it plays. The environment, all that's around it, everything has a piece. The whole idea of coexisting. The whole animal kingdom. The animal chain, whatever that's called, the food chain. Cars, transportation. It all plays into the world history and into the human history and story. Now, if we're going to argue about what's the main part, what are the sub parts or the leading parts and the supporting parts, that's for you to figure out. Again, I'll throw it to science. Even science talks about all of the variables that has to be taken into consideration when you are making not only a hypothesis, but you're trying to go out and find a solution to a posed question or problem that you see in the world. There is just not only one variable that you have to go against. There's multiple. In some cases, it's just endless variables. Some things can be replicated. Others it cannot, because of the fact that there's too many variables. There are too many things. There's too much variety that it will be hard to duplicate and say that, oh, the reason why the sky looks this way is because of this. No, it could be because of global warming, because of all the chemtrails, because of the way that the pesticides are affecting the crops. If you believe in or if you know about hermetic principles, The whole thing about as above, so below, that whole thing, whatever's being affected here at the bottom is also affecting what's going on, and vice versa. You'll know that literally there's too many variables for you to even want to figure out. So it is amazing how everything is interconnected, and partly is because that's how it's supposed to be. Then it wouldn't be a part of this world. Gravity's holding all of us and everything together, so there's a reason why we're all interconnected too. Because this Earth's gravitational pull and field is housing us here. We all have things that's in common that keeps us connected. If we weren't connected, then we get booted off the Wi-Fi and be floating somewhere in space. A lot of stuff would be. I just think about it in that way. Say, yep. Normal comes from norm, so it keeps changing. Yes. Yes. That's why I like don't reinvent the wheel, better. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you don't have to. All of this is combined. Old and new, Old Testament, New Testament. Things are set, but still changing just because they can. Yes. Yeah. What's going on, Chris Fader? I'm sorry, I was catching up with all the comments. So appreciate you being in here. Right now, we're talking about, is there a way to combine the old and new? And honestly, to answer your question, it's yes. And it's already been combined. It's for us to figure that stuff out and see. Because everything, like we just said right now, has been connected. It's all for us to sit back and be like, oh, dang, that old system actually is already working where it is now. Now this right here is not actually working how it's supposed to be anymore. So why do we need it? Let's get it out of here. That's why, in the sense of how English describes the word law, to me, is that man-made aspect of law. Because when we think of universal law, it's universal law. It's unchanging. Nothing about it is going to change. Gravity is not going to change. Yes, booted off Wi-Fi, floating in space. That is my concept of gravity. It's like if you're not a part of this gravitational pull here, it's like you being on the Wi-Fi, but then get booted off the router and Wi-Fi. Yes, and where you gonna end up? Floating in space somewhere. I don't know. But it said the ocean would be in the sky without gravity. Yes. Yes. But as above, so below, the sky is the reflection of the ocean. So the ocean is somewhat already in the sky because of the fact that it's reflected off of the clouds from the ocean in the sky. I was playing. I'm not gonna do all of that, but I mean, in a sense, yeah, it is all of that stuff. But the old and the new have been combined for centuries, and that's the flow and progression of life and civilization in generations. That's the purpose. It's not only just out with the old, in with the new, but is out with what doesn't work and in with what does work. What's functional. That's why you still have theories to this day from many scientists, from many great minds that apply to what's going on now of all the stuff that is happening around us. We have to be able to make stuff sit, fit, and work for right now. So that in the future, what we've built already right now will be enough to catapult us into future generations so that they can then build off of what we have. Again, it's this whole idea of building and continuing something. That's like, for example, my grandparents creating the foundation of a house, of a Lego house. Yes, I'm like using the house metaphor a lot. I just do. We can even just say, let's go with just, yeah, I'm still stick with the house. I like the house metaphor. I just do. They already built the foundation with the Legos. Then my mom, my auntie, and all of their generation, they come in and they build the sides of that house. Then my aunties will, after that, their sisters, my aunties and them, uncles, everybody else, decide to go and start building parts of the roof and a bit of the windows. And then comes me, my cousins, brothers, sisters, and everybody else, we can say millennials, I'm going into the generation stuff, is finalizing the roof and now starting to get into the insides and the core of the house. And then as the next generations and generations to come, they're continuing to add or possibly take away, because they'll find, oh, instead of having this roof now, we can put solar panels on here because we're thinking ahead about power, energy, frequency, all this other different stuff. And again, that will continue to grow upon itself. But what is the vital piece of combining the old with the new is knowing when it's appropriate to change these things and not just do away with everything. You just don't destroy something for the purpose of, because it's completely old, I don't need any of it. I'm not going to lie to y'all. When it comes to certain technology nowadays, that's how I am. And I know I shouldn't. My mom isn't like that. My grandmother and them isn't like that. They'll run something all the way into the dirt till it doesn't work anymore, until they finally get something new. Because it still suffices. It still works. For me, sometimes getting the new improved stuff, and I have some of the old stuff, I just get rid of it. But I've learned to be like, yo, why is the reason why I want the new stuff? Is it part of also the programming because of what things are happening now in society? Or because I'm also trying to keep up with the Jones and people? Or because you'll have people laughing at me saying, oh, you don't have the newest and latest, when knowing that the previous is still as functional as all the latest stuff is now? But I've gotten better and better at it. But that's just another point to understanding that just because something is old doesn't mean that it is not valuable or worth anything anymore, or it still works. And that everything that's new is the best and improved and and greatest updated version of stuff. Because I can tell you for sure, there with a lot of software, a lot of computers, games, cars. Oh my goodness. Honestly, for me, older cars back then were so much safer than cars are now. And part of it is because of the materials that are being used and the whole idea of being able to make money off of using less and less material, but at the same time, that material being more reusable and making a profit. Because then again, it loops all back to capitalism. And I know I said loops all back to that, but then that's why you start seeing all these interconnections with all this stuff. Everything has a purpose and plays a role, because even if something is old, it still has value. And just because something is new doesn't mean it has the ultimate value. But a lot of that depends on how much value does it bring. Money, all of that. Some of it. I know I'm like shaking at y'all like you should know this. I'm like, nah. It's like it's also clicking to me while I'm bringing all of this stuff is. But yeah, let me look at some of y'all comments, man. I gotta keep y'all in here. Thank y'all. Your philosophy and knowledge is fast because you're transparent through the action of your voice. You're speaking truth and realities. I appreciate it, man. This is based off of honestly all that I've learned and really seeing what works and what's there. I can't ignore it. And if I try to ignore it, I know that it's there. Then that means I'm losing out on that lesson. And for me, I really want to be able to take even if I miss a day, but each day being a time and day for me to learn something new or something that I previously thought I did that I knew and see that it's actually changed. So it's always continual progression, always. But thank you. I was just watching a video today about traditional, I'm sorry, Kundin, I don't want to say because I will mess that name up so bad. Dancer, dancer applying the learning from the dance form to make very advanced prosthetics at MIT. That's fire. Again, merging what is, and when we also have that negative connotation of what old is, because that's why I was talking about why people, or I have my experience of why people be mad at me for having like a more outdated phone or technology, whatever it is, and they make fun of it. But knowing that you can take pieces of that stuff and create something so much, honestly, better, if not more retro, more helpful, and it's just depending on how you use your resources. It really comes down to a lot of that too, is use the tools that you got and you'll be surprised of what results you get from it. They said the earth itself is a living creature. Yes. And if you take the H from earth and put it in front of the E, you'll understand why earth is a living creature. For all my folks who like doing scrambles, take the H from earth, put it in front of the E, and you'll understand why the earth is a living creature. If you catch it and you know what I just did, put it down in the comments. If you know what I just did, put it in the comments. Say, heck yeah. I mean, building off of what you know and what you can improve. It all works in your favor for the glory of this speedy life. Yes. We have to be careful about endorsing combining old and new, though, because colonizers often say we combine ancient and modern to create this fancy healing modality, but they're actually appropriating. Oh, yeah. I'm not forgetting about the pros and cons of when you're doing this stuff. I shouldn't say I'm not forgetting, but thank you for reminding us that, yes, there's always going to be that pros and cons, because people's intentions, humans' intentions, it's not always for the greater good. A lot of it is to benefit. And it could be the selfish aspect of benefiting, not for the whole, but for the one. In my aspect, when I think of combining old and new, it's more so for the overall benefit for humanity, for society, for the whole civilization. Not just for the 1%, the 0.5%. No, not for such a very small portion. I'm talking about everybody. But again, you're going to have folks who's going to take and run with it. But that's in our same term of balance. There's always going to be that balance of those who get it and those who don't. Those who misuse power and those who properly use power. All of that stuff. Because if everything was all super one-sided, again, we would be living in a utopian society. There'll be clear of nothing. There'll be little to no issues or problems. Life will be on easy. But life's not that way. But thank you for that reminder. The value is what you do with what you have. Yes. It says, yep. Modern stuff has planned obsolescence designed to break down quickly on purpose to get you to keep buying. Yes. Yes. And to me, that's clear. Clear to see. Clear as daylight. Clear and transparent. All of that stuff. It still works, bro. That's right. 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's right. It's all about combining into a super combo, you feel. I feel that. I also would say not only think, but you know it is. You'll know it's a super combo. It adds up. Your progress adds to the new history of events. Yes, my grandpa still cooks with the same pot that he's had since the 70s. That is fire. What? And it's probably a lot more, maybe a lot more safe than a lot of the pots that we have now. because a lot of the pots that we have too are not iron. If you don't have iron skillets or iron pots, you might want to get you one. You got to watch out with a lot of not just the ceramic, but these plastic and different material, not polyester, but there's different, I don't know the particular material names for these pots and stuff, but they're not the most healthiest when it comes to cooking in your foods. So be mindful of that too. And you got it said, yeah, heart, yes. So for those, you still see it. If you had put the H in earth in front of the E, you would get the word heart. Because the earth has a heart. It's a living creature. It has a core. We all have a core. But yeah, y'all. I can keep going into more and more points, but I want to keep it light right here. But if y'all have any more thoughts and perspectives you want to put for this last topic before I go ahead and do the wrap up for the whole show and for this season, please put them now. I'm with it. Yeah, the magma is its blood flow. Give all of that visualization, or I should say, give all the visuals. Put it and piece it together, because that's honestly what technology is. And I was telling one of the students about this earlier too. Not even earlier, but before we went on break from school. I was telling them that literally all the technology that we have is just a representation of the human body. And the human body is a part of a representation of the world, of Mother Nature, Earth, all of that stuff, all the elements. Again, I won't go any deeper or further into it. But if y'all have your last thoughts on this particular topic of, is there a way to combine the old and the new, put them down in the comments as I go ahead and wrap up and end off the show for tonight. But let me get some water. Even though we're about to end it, I gotta, hydrate yourself. The ones who combine old and new are the zodiacs that are part of the higher part of the pyramid. And which pyramid are you speaking on? We talking about Maslow? We talking about ancient Egypt? Ancient Sumer? Who we talking about? And I see you in here though. I see you, Chairman Dallas. I see you, brother. I'm already just about to end off the show. That's why I'm not about to take any more or take any requests for lives, because I'm about to end the show. So if y'all have again any other last thoughts, throw them in here before I'm about to wrap this thing up. Nah, the pyramid that divides the higher class or middle class and lower class. Okay, I get you. Capitalism, the biggest pyramid scheme in the world. I will say right now, ever created, because that's in my realm of whatever's been created. At least from almost the 30 years that I've been on this earth, which will be next year. I'll be hitting 30, but I would say that is the biggest pyramid scheme ever. It's capitalism, because of the fact that it's in the form of a pyramid, because of classism and all these isms. But yeah, I said, but thank you for your transparency. Oh, it's the only way I can be, man. Yes, I can fake the funk, as that saying goes back way when. But shoot, I got to be able to live it to share it. So if I'm over here lying to y'all about how things are supposed to be done, and I haven't even went through them myself, I'm doing y'all a disservice. So I'm not going to do that. It's not my style. I swear, these songs be on point. So I will send you the video about the dancer later. It turns out she's my friend's dance teacher's daughter. Connections again, y'all. Message. If I ain't got it, man. Connections. But yeah, it says you're amazing in this way. It's rational to say it this way. No need to. But yeah. With that, to at least wrap this topic, and then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap for the whole show. Is there a way to combine the old and new? Yes. The world and everything around us is already interconnected, and it's just about time, or in time, for us to see those things and then use them to help evaluate further on. But being mindful that, is your intention behind this to help the whole or to just help one part, which is yourself? So it can. It definitely can. But it can also do the complete opposite. Because you might not need it. But to wrap up, y'all, for this season finale, again, I want to thank y'all so much for riding with me, for coming in, sharing your thoughts throughout the whole season. You know, giving of your time, because I say it all the time, that y'all not helpful. Like I'm saying that y'all not helpful. You guys are. The reason why this whole show was created was to build community, was to be able to come in and have conversations on this, on different topics, so that we can learn from each other. Because ultimately, building and creating this community, it starts with the conversation. It starts with getting to understand, overstand, and understand each other, so that we know who we building with, so that when we're properly going out into the world to create stuff, we have a set plan. We know what we got to do. Everybody has their part. So again, I thank y'all so much for giving of your time, your support, your perspectives, and your knowledge throughout this whole season and the previous seasons for those. So shout outs to everyone that's in here. Thank you, Kunin. I appreciate you, Dallas. I appreciate you, Spikes. I appreciate Chris. Appreciate everybody that's come through. I don't want to not stop and say nobody else. Like, y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who. You know, specifically. But we'll say this just so it's out there for everybody to know. Next season, when I come back in April, it's going to be the final season of What's the Word. And after that, it's going to be no more. Some of you be like, okay, why? How you going to just thank all of us and be supportive, and then now you're going to be ending it when you come back for the next season? And a part of that is, it's actually served its purpose. And you guys have made it purposeful because y'all have come through. Now we're going to take these conversations, these videos, and all that's set here, and still use it to inform those in the future. We are now carrying on the idea of what's the word and putting that into our everyday convos. But yeah, just wanted to say that. But I'm so appreciative. Thank y'all so much. But to wrap up, when it comes to current events and knowing what's going on, it is important that you take time to properly plan and know what's going on in the news, so that you can prepare yourself, your family, your loved ones for what's to come. So just be aware. And don't be afraid to be aware, because that's just a part of living in the game. 2, when it comes to traditional versus modern, you can have a traditional mindset, but move in a modern way. Because even though they say that there's nothing new under the sun, they did not say that what was old cannot be used to help what is new in the sun. So what is traditional, in a sense, can help what's modern now, even though they can clash at points, because of the fact that for things to be moved into the modern, Things from the traditional have to be left. But just know that whatever you bring from where it is, use it to help you and to help everyone around you when it comes to traditional and modern ideas, thoughts, values, language, purposes, all of that stuff. And lastly, when it comes to, is there a way to combine the old and new? Yes, but be mindful of your intention behind what are you trying to do when combining the old and new. Is it to help your brother and neighbor and the civilian next to you? Or is it just to put more money in your pockets and 1% and whoever else is here on this earth? Is it with you or is it against you? I swear all the time these songs. So combine it, modify it, update it, because guess what? Software doesn't stay the same because of the fact that there's continuous updates. But take in peace what actually works for you so that ultimately you become a better version of yourself. Generations ahead of you can continue to better themselves because of the fact that you've left the blueprint on how to do these things. But with that, y'all, thank y'all so much for coming for the season finale of What's the Word Wednesdays. It's season 3. This was episode 18. Yes, we got more in store for next season. And when we're finishing and doing what we are doing right now and taking a break, please take the time to love on yourself. Please tell somebody that you love them and let them know that you're connected, you're there, and you're grateful for their time and their presence. And you tell yourself that too in the mirror, because self-love is important. Self-care for your health care, all the hashtags and stuff that you need. But yes, y'all, shouts out to everyone in here. If you're watching this on Instagram or YouTube, if you are on YouTube, subscribe to your boy at A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. I got more videos. You may not like watching hour-long videos. Guess what? Just watch 30 seconds and we cool. Not even tripping. Come see me Thursday. I'm going to be freestyling again. Not again. I'm going to be freestyling for 3 hours. Thursday, check it out. And Friday, got my project While I'm Waiting, dropping. Go check it out. But with that, y'all, peace and one love. Until next season, keep your pace, patience, awareness, consistency, and empathy. Your pace. And keep pushing forward because y'all got this. It's been your brother A.D.V.I.S.S. Peace and one love. We are out because it's about that time.